Well, we're about 8 miles away from Chicago, as you can see the skyline there. Um, and also, if you can see kind of toward the back part of Chicago, it looks kind of not well, it doesn't look clear at all, but um, it's you could see there's some clouds there in the background that are starting to build up, and I'm hoping, I don't get a storm come through. I'm only 8 miles away, so I figured I'm trying to get there. But as you can see, the winds are starting to pick up. The seas are starting to pick up. Now I'm getting about 2 footers here. Um, One thing I wanted to spin around here for was to watch when you see most of the skylines of a city or something, they're all very compact in a small little area, tall buildings, and that's considered like downtown. Well, this is the first time I have ever seen this, a skyline that's very long. Uh, it's built so long that I just kept thinking, where is Chicago? Where is main Chicago at? Because the skyline like this, I've never seen one that's been this long before. In all my travels, even New York wasn't this long. Of course, New York is so compact that they put the buildings right next to each other that you can't even walk between them. But here, they're so spread out. I mean, you can tell where downtown Chicago is, obviously, down back there. But as you can see, it's kind of cloudy over there. So I'm hoping I can make it in without any problems. It was still cloudy, still getting a little rough, but it started getting a little bit smoother now. And as I come in through this breaker wall here, it'll be a lot easier. Now I've got to get on the other side of this wall right here that's in front of me. That's where the entrance is to the lock that I have to go through. And once I go through that lock, I'll be right downtown Chicago. Uh, the good thing about it is I'm out of the lakes. That was so great. It felt so good to finally not have to worry about bad weather, winds, and all of this, and the lakes picking up. Uh, the, it was an adventure for me to do the Great Lakes. Well, not all of them. I did three of them. I did Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan, and I enjoyed doing the trip, but you have to be very cautious when you're in the lakes. These lakes are very funny. They pick up without any notice whatsoever, and they can be rough sometimes. You just have to watch your days. Stay close to the shoreline. Be ready to come in off the lake. If for some reason it starts picking up, and that's kind of what I did. I didn't stay very far. I didn't go toward the middle of the lakes or anything like that. And I didn't. The best crossing I could make in Michigan was up top on the northern part of Lake Michigan, where that's probably about the roughest because you got Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, in a small little channel that's coming from Lake Superior, all meeting there. So the waters, when they all meet together like that, they tend to hit each other and get pretty rough. And it's not because you just picked a bad day to cross. It's pretty much constant. So I had to actually wait 3 days to cross to Beaver Island, which was the halfway point from one end of Lake Michigan to the other end of Lake Michigan, to get across to the Wisconsin side. But it happened. I did it. Um, Here we are coming into Chicago now. I've gone on the other side of that wall that I mentioned earlier. And you can see up right in front where that green sign is. That's where the lock is uh, for Chicago. And we're going to actually be taking a trip into Chicago, into the Chicago River, and going right through downtown Chicago. Uh, it's a pretty nice experience. I kind of like the idea of Chicago. There were some people, but nothing like it was like in New York, where you couldn't move around, you couldn't. They had a lot of parks, I noticed, and they were spread out pretty well. People were sitting along the banks of the river watching boats go by. I did notice one thing that they did have is that they have a lot of ferry boats. I'm sorry, not ferry boats, but tour boats that take people out on tours and stuff like that up and down the river. And it's a nice little scenic route to do. It's very beautiful. The waters are nice, nice and calm because you're actually, in a river. And it's what I suspected was going to happen is that once you get into the rivers there, it was going to be nice and calm. Here you can see I'm still moving around a little bit, but I'm still out in the bay here. Uh, and it's in protected waters, but it's still a little shaky, but not as bad as it was when I was on the actual lake itself. It's calmed down quite a bit. And here I'm waiting for the light so that I can go into the lock. Like all the other locks, they have a red light and a green light. And once they turn the green light on, then you can go ahead and move up ahead and start going in. Um, I was just kind of just bouncing around, watching what's going on here, and everything seemed to be looking pretty good. Okay, we went ahead and got the green light, and we're going to go ahead and start coming in. These have lines hanging on the side of the walls here, so that you just hold on to the lines. You don't have to come up with your own lines. They have the lines hanging there. Normally, when they use these lines here, that means that it's not very deep. It's going to be pretty short, shallow run here as far as how far they're going to drop us. And the lines are not very thick either, so it's not like they're going to have some big boats coming in, the big barges, which can't come in through the city anyway because of the bridges are so low that they wouldn't be able to get under the bridges anyway. So it's mainly for residential traffic and a lot of the commercial vessels that take people out on tours and charters and stuff like that. So you can see we're coming up to the lines here, and just got to grab one and just hold on to it. And like I said, it's probably not going to drop very much, I would imagine, because of the fact that they do provide the lines like that. That means it's a shallow drop. So they're going to go ahead and once I'm holed up, once I grab a line and I'm secure, they'll go ahead and close the gates behind me and then start draining the pool, as I call it. It's going to be fairly short, so just a few more minutes here and we'll be on our way. I did go ahead and edit the tape here and cut off a piece of it, figuring, well, we don't need to sit here and watch me go down. But as you can see, the water line there, I didn't go down very far at all. And this is it. We're no longer in the lakes. We are now inside the Chicago River. I'm hoping for the best, and I'm hoping that it'll get a lot better now because I'm out of the lakes, and I'm out of Chesapeake Bay, and most of the large bodies of water I've kind of gone through already, except when I get down to Florida, I got to cut across the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico crossing is probably going to be, I would say, about a 7-hour run. It's going to be a long run, but I have to do it. I got to do it in a day. I don't want to be running at night. It's pretty dangerous to be a boat of this size out there in open water. If something goes wrong, there's nobody around you. So that's the only next large crossing that I see I got to go through. But we'll talk about that as we get closer. Anyway, now let's talk about Chicago, and here we come. It's supposed to be a pretty nice little scenic route of downtown Chicago, from what I've heard of. So we're going to find out, see what it's like. So far, everything looks pretty nice. The waters are much calmer now, as you can see. I mean, hardly any movement of wakes, and it's the wind is blowing pretty good, but you can see it's not creating a lot of wakes, and it's because it's a narrow river. I mean, it's not very, and not only that, you have all these buildings to stop a lot of the air. You know, I know Chicago's, they call it the Windy City, and it's pretty windy, but it doesn't create havoc on the river here. So that's the good part about it, is that we're still doing good. Um, so as we're going into downtown here, I have noticed that there is a lot of boats, a lot of tour boats actually, a lot of little ferries that seem to be taking people all over the place, up and down the river here, and they're all lined up along the side here. There's also a couple of boat boats that are fire boats and stuff like that, I guess, and emergency vehicle boats. Uh, the Coast Guard is right here to my left, and there also is the sheriff's boats are to the left. So they're kind of covering everything around here. Uh, it looks, so far it looks, the water looks pretty good. I had heard that, you know, the water was kind of dirty and polluted, but it sure doesn't look like it's polluted. It looks pretty clean. You can see through it. It is a darker green water, but you can still see when the sun hits it, you can still see, you know, down into it. I've even been able to see a couple of fish swimming around here, so it's not bad at all. It's not what I thought I was going to be, because, like I said, I had heard, you know, that the river was pretty polluted, but it's not. It's actually kept very clean by the looks of it. I did see earlier something that looked like a boat that had a paddle boat system, like a paddle boat system, and it turns out it was actually screening on the paddles there, and what it does is it just rides around wherever I guess they see debris. It just rides around, and that thing picks up trash and everything from it and dumps it on board. So maybe that's why, you know, everything looks so nice and clean here, because they use these boats every day to run around and seeing wherever there's trash or garbage or whatever, and be picking it up. They do have as far as debris and stuff like that, when they get bad rains or a lot of rain or something, they end up getting a lot of logs, a lot of branches, and a lot of tree branches and all of that from the rains pushing, you know, the logs into the river, and then the branches into the river, and then they go up and down the river that way. But so far I haven't seen nothing that bad at all, and it's pretty amazing. Everything looks real nice. You probably can't see it yet, but that building right in front of me, it's got the word Trump written on it. So I guess he's not only in New York, but he's got his own. He's got a build. Well, I don't know if he actually owns a building. A lot of people just want to use his name. So I guess it's called the Trump Building, and it's right in front of me. That big glass, blue-colored glass building there that's right in front. It's got the word Trump written on it, and you'll see it as I get closer. But other than that, I did notice, you know, a lot of kayakers, a lot of small little boats, private boats, and then a lot of these ferry boats, like the one coming up right now. There were tons of these things all over the place, and they all had, I mean, they were full as they were going up and down the river. So there must be, you know, big business for people wanting to go up and down the river here to see downtown Chicago. It got pretty good as far as coming in and out of here. I didn't have a big problem coming in and out. It's just that these commercial ships or these commercial ferries have the right of way. So these guys, when they see you coming, they don't say, well, I'm going to wait for him to pass me and then I'm going to go ahead and take off. No, they take off knowing that you're coming, and you got to give them the right of way. So it kind of I had one of them do that to me. It cut right in front of me. He was tied up, or not. I don't know if he was tied up, but he was against the seawall, and I guess they were loading people or whatever. And then all of a sudden, he just cuts right in front of me and takes off. And you'll see him show up here early. I mean, later on in the video, he just basically cut me off and took off. So by law, they have the right of way. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it. You got to give them the right of way, and they gotta you got to get out of their way. But as you can see, here comes a couple more ferries down the river, or actually they're going upriver. I'm going downriver right now. But I also noticed that there's really no place for, let's say a recreational boat to tie up and walk around and maybe go grab something to eat, grab a snack, or do a little bit of shopping or something like that. There's nowhere. I haven't seen it, and I really didn't see it the whole trip. Didn't see anywhere where you could tie up and sit down and have a lunch or dinner, or just enjoy shopping around or anything like that. It looks beautiful. The scenery is real nice, and the boats and everything going up and down are real nice. But it's shocked me that you would figure if they would allow people to be able to tie up to the sides here along the bank here, that you would create more business for the local businesses here. But maybe they don't need the business. They already have enough. They don't need more. So the only boats that I really saw that were tied up are all commercial vessels. These ferries that are going up and down the river. That's about the only thing I saw. I did notice one or two huge boats, private boats, that were tied up. But, again, they could have been corporate boats. I don't know. I didn't ask. But you can see now here in front of me, the Trump Tower there. And I guess like anything else, people pay to have his name put on a building. And of course he'll take credit that, he had something to do with the building. But hey, that's our president, or was our president anyway. This wouldn't be the first lie he said. But anyway, I don't want to get into politics, so we'll just move on. I think he did better than Biden, though. But hey, quit doing that. No more. Okay, that's it. No more. Here's that barge that cut right in front of me. This guy was stopped, and I passed him. And he saw I was coming because I was looking right at him, and he was looking right at me. And then all of a sudden he turns his wheel and he gives it full board and gets right in front of me and cuts me off. But like I said, they have the right of way, so there's not a whole lot we can do. Because these bridges are pretty low, I mean, you're not going to have big vessels coming in and out of here, and that kind of helps keep the traffic down. As far as you can't tie up anywhere along the line along the river here anyway. So to say well, let's go downtown and have lunch or something on a boat, that's really not going to happen from what I can see. Like I said, the only thing I saw that was tied up along the banks were these ships that either carry the ferries that carry you on a tour and stuff like that. But all in all, Chicago looks pretty pretty. It looks pretty nice. Just to sit here and watch these real tall buildings as you're going by them was pretty impressive. And this is, I guess, what you would call downtown Chicago. I enjoyed it. It was a nice trip. I'm glad I did this because there was a different route I could have taken. If I would have kept going south a little bit more, there is another route where most of your commercial barges and the big barges and all these other big boats are able to come in and out of. Now, if you have a residential boat that you cannot get through these bridges here, these bridges don't open. At least some of them did. Uh, if you come up to one of these bridges that doesn't open, you're done. You're not going anywhere. You got to turn around and go back the other way. So for that, they created a different route. It's still close to downtown. It's just a little bit south of here. And it's another channel that comes in, and then it meets up on the Illinois River a little bit further down as soon as you get past downtown. And then that's how the big boats and the barges are allowed to come in through the river. Because they still have to have barges coming from the lakes to go down the Illinois River and go all the way down to the Mississippi to New Orleans if need be, or go all the way up the Mississippi, which is almost up to South Carolina, North Carolina, or I'm sorry, South Montana and North Montana. So they still need the barges to go up and down the rivers here. So instead of taking the scenic route like I did here, they have to take a different route. And they bypass, basically, they're bypassing the city. But if you're small enough, if you got a small enough boat that you can get under these bridges here, which is still a good-sized boat, you can still get a good-sized boat coming in and out of these. As you can see in the pictures, some of these are double-deckers, these boats coming through, and they seem to be fitting fine underneath these bridges. So I think there was one or two of these bridges that did open, but I don't understand why, if you got one bridge that won't open, it doesn't matter how many bridges are open, can open or not open. You're basically going to be stuck there. But in this case, as you can see, I took a detour here because I thought this looked like a place where I could tie up and maybe walk around and see something. And the closer I got, I had noticed there was two boats there, two small boats. And I thought, oh, if they can tie up here, then I guess I can too. I don't see any reason why. You can see the two little boats there in front of me. Well, it turns out those are actually antique boats that are there for show only. They don't. I don't think they even run anymore, from what one of the guys was telling me. But I was coming in and going to tie up here, and I had a gentleman tell me, he says, are you planning on tying up here? And I said, yeah, I wanted to see, maybe walk around or something and see what's here. He says, well, no, these are for the ferries, which you got one coming in here fairly short, so you're really not allowed to tie up here. And that was kind of ridiculous because, I kind of thought about it. I thought, it would be nice if residential or regular private boats could tie up. Now you can see across there they have these docks underneath the building here. Now those are private boats, but they probably own a condo or something up on that building, and that's why they're allowed to tie up their boats in there, because you can see there's even small little boats tied up in there. So unless you own a condo or something in here, you're not tying up anywhere on the water here, which is kind of ridiculous. I thought, well, anyway, I guess they know what they're doing. And now moving on, I came across a section of the river where I was supposed to actually go to port, and I ended up going starboard, so I kind of screwed that up. It didn't take me long to realize I was going the wrong way, because my GPS has a mark on my line that tells me this is the intercoastal, or this is the primary sailing line, as they call it. On the river, they call it the primary sailing line. When you're not on the rivers, they call it the intercoastal. When you get around, when you go up on the Atlantic side all the way up to New York, it's called the intercoastal line that you follow. Here, I noticed that they call it the primary sailing line, and that's the way to get you basically on the Great Loop route. So as I was coming down the river, I noticed there was a Y here, and I was supposed to take the turn here. And then I realized, uh-oh, made the wrong turn. I didn't get very far, so it wasn't like it was a big deal or lost anything. But you can see the buildings here, beautiful buildings. Some of the architectural was pretty old. You can see some of these bridges here, the where they had the sides off of them and all of that. They're very beautiful architecture, and you can tell they're old. So, but as far as you can see, there's hardly any businesses to say, hey, let's go do business here, or let's go stop and have, a beer here or there, have a restaurant and stuff like that. Uh, that was kind of disappointing. I was already figuring that I was going to stop somewhere here and at least have lunch so that I could say I had lunch in Chicago. So I was kind of disappointed I wasn't able to stop anywhere and have lunch. Um, and it was more so that I could say that, hey, I had lunch, in Chicago, but it didn't happen. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're almost done with the city here. We've got probably another 15, 20 minutes and we'll be done. But this is going to be the end of Chicago here. And then the next video we come up with is going to be going on the Illinois River and a couple of other names that they mentioned on the trip. But next one will be up down the rivers, and that's going to be interesting to see what kind of conditions and weather we're going to run into. I'm thinking we should have good weather, or even if it is bad weather, because the rivers are so narrow, you shouldn't have a big gust of winds blowing you all over, or huge wakes that would prevent you from keep going. So even on a rainy day, I still feel I want to be able to travel. But we're going to find out on the next route, because the next route is actually being on the river, the Illinois River, heading toward the Mississippi River. And once you get on the Mississippi River, then we're going to go partly on the Ohio, then the Tennessee Tomby Waterway, and then we'll be out in Mobile, Alabama, where we'll be heading east, back on the Intercoastal, and getting back to Florida. But anyway, this is the end of this trip here. I enjoyed it. Beautiful city here. Just what I was expecting to see. I only wish they had places where we could stop and have, lunch or dinner or something like that. Probably would have made it a little bit more interesting, because I was really looking forward to saying I had lunch in downtown Chicago, and taking a picture of my little boat sitting somewhere on the seawall somewhere. But didn't happen, which is fine. Hey, you come along, as you're making your trip, things happen, so you have to kind of go along with the program. And I did. But anyway, this is the end of this, and we'll go ahead and see you on the next film, which should be coming out shortly. And hope you enjoyed this video here. And this was basically doing the Chicago River here. That's it for today. Goodbye, and we'll see you next time.